years of damage with a quick current day change? What about all those who died and were mistreated in the past? Making a modern day fix to the issue doesn't cure the actions that have already happened. The Uchiha felt too strong with their feelings, and an eventual revolt was inevitable. On the flip side, Hiruzen, Danzo, and the Konoha elders were left with a crucial decision to make when they got word from Itachi that the Uchiha were planning such a thing, which due to Hiruzen's passive nature, that Danzo was well aware of at this point, he knew that he couldn't rely on him to make a decision quick and efficient enough, and felt unless he did something, the Uchiha would attempt to overthrow the village before Hiruzen could find a solution. So, he made his move. Itachi. Whether it results in war or not, the moment the coup d'etat happens, the Uchiha will lock themselves into a fate of getting annihilated, including your little brother who knows of nothing. However, there is a way to spare just your brother prior to any revolt. If things come to pass, your brother will likely come to know everything, and if he witnesses a Konoha shinobi slaughter his entire clan, it will give him a vengeful heart towards Konoha, and then he unfortunately will have to die as well. Itachi replies saying, "Is that a threat?" prompting Danzo to say, "No, I'd like you to make the choice. Either align with the Uchiha, launch the coup d'etat, and die along with your clan, or side with Konoha. Save your little brother before the revolt, and help us eliminate all other Uchiha. No matter what, things must be quelled before any mayhem can arise in order to protect the village, and the only shinobi that can be entrusted with this mission is you, Itachi, who is a double agent for both the Uchiha and Konoha. It will likely be a most painful mission for you, but on the other hand, it will allow your little brother to be spared. I know you care about the village. Will you accept this mission?" And the rest is history. Now I want you guys to think about Danzo's goals and motive. His concern is and was always for the greater good of the Leaf, and it is an indisputable fact that him giving the order to massacre the Uchiha rather than allowing the Uchiha to revolt saved more lives and was for the betterment of the village as a whole. It is the worst of both evils, don't get me wrong. Both are not ideal. However, what choice did he have at this point? He had to make this tough decision to save the most amount of people he could, especially given his circumstances. People like the second and third Hokage shoulder much more blame if we really get to the core of this issue, with Tobirama not integrating the Uchiha better in the village, making them the police force which, as stated by Orochimaru, it could be said that the seeds got sown with the Uchiha police force that you created. Those who crack down on crime tend to be easily disliked. Plus, the more authority such a group has, the more conceited it can get. By building the police station next to the prison under the pretext of facilitating the monitoring of criminals, you conspicuously shoved the Uchiha clan to the margins of the village. That helped foster the Madara adherents. This is the same man who pushed the narrative the Uchiha clan were a village possessed by evil as well. In addition, Hiruzen is much more to blame than Danzo too. With being the Hokage, he is the one with the authority to make whatever change he desires to solve this problem, as opposed to Danzo, who didn't. He was put between a rock and a hard place, either attack or be attacked, with the latter resulting with the Leaf being in shambles. So, although his decision to exterminate the Uchiha was not ideal, he wasn't given many options due to not being Hokage, and didn't have the power to make big village building decisions unlike Hiruzen and Tobirama. He simply did what he could, given his limited options. This is just another example of Danzo displaying his loyalty, working for the greater good of Konoha. Another critique I've seen thrown at Danzo is his reasoning behind attacking and stealing Shisui Uchiha's eye. But the context that gets left out is that Shisui, with his eyes, had the ability to manipulate anyone he desired through his jutsu to get them to say or do anything, and he was attempting to stop the revolt using this ability, which is only when Danzo stole his eye. This action Shisui was taking to try and solve this issue was not only a short-term fix with this long history of hatred the Uchiha had, where eventually the problem would arise once more when the jutsu wears off or other complications arise, but it also stripped away the freedom and free will and manipulated reality to what Shisui believed to be the right decision. Now where have we heard this before? This was Madara's exact plan with the Infinite Tsukiyomi, to go against everyone's free will and place everyone under a genjutsu, manipulating reality because he thought it was best. However, even though Danzo was correct in his assessment that this was only a short-term fix to deal with the Uchiha, I want to make it very clear and known that he is not above manipulating reality via a jutsu, or utilizing other ways to achieve what he believes to be the best for not only the Leaf, but the shinobi world at large as well, which we are going to see in his actions later in this video. Danzo is also blamed for traumatizing and ruining both Sasuke and Kabuto's life, to the extent that people throw blame at him for being the one who created these world threats that the two would grow up to be, and is responsible given how he mistreated them. I take issue with both of these, because, as we've already covered, Danzo was given the worst of two evils due to his circumstances, and simply chose the option that resulted in less people dying. Sasuke having his life traumatized was a small price to pay in the grand scheme of things, and Danzo even took precautions when talking with Itachi about why he is the one who Sasuke needs to see slaughter his clan, so he doesn't grow a hatred towards the Leaf, but instead towards his brother. If things come to pass, your brother will likely come to know everything, and if he witnesses a Konoha shinobi slaughter his entire clan, it will give him a vengeful heart towards Konoha. Danzo is absolutely not responsible for Sasuke growing up to be a criminal and a threat. If anything, it was Itachi's, by choosing to keep his brother alive and fueling all this hatred in him. But let's explore the Kabuto and Nono Yakushi situation to see if he is to blame here. One night, Danzo stops by Nono's orphanage to give out a mission to her because the Leaf had obtained intel that the Hidden Stone Village was plotting an attack against them. So Danzo needed an experienced agent to spy and gain information on whether these threats were true or not. The Wandering Nun is the only one we can entrust this long-term mission to. There is currently not one individual within the Foundation who possesses the espionage skills that this one does. It's a small price to pay for the well-being of Konoha. And eventually, Nono accepts this mission request, where Danzo then also makes it known he will need a young shinobi as well to train and operate as a spy for additional intel missions. This kid was Kabuto Yakushi. Throughout the next 5 years, Kabuto and Nono were on missions gaining intel for the Leaf, but because of these missions, they ended up finding out too much for their own good, which often is the case with spies, and the village that employs them grows suspicious or worried that potentially they could use this information against them. That is the nature and eventual fate of an agent, and the case with Nono and Kabuto was no different. Danzo had set up a plan to dispose of them both simultaneously, killing two birds with one stone, with a plan that he put into play on the very night we just talked about 5 years ago. Nono was given a mission to dispose of a specific hidden stone shinobi, while coincidentally, Kabuto as well was given a mission mission in this village at the exact same time. And as tragic as the situation ended up being, with Nono attempting to execute her beloved orphanage son, it was a fate that couldn't have been escaped and dealt with differently. This is the dark reality of maintaining peace within a village. Precautions such as these need to be taken, especially in the chaotic shinobi world of Naruto. The battle ended with Kabuto slicing her open, and tragically enough, Nono didn't even recognize him as she died in his arms, due to Danzo brainwashing her over time, giving her false images of how Kabuto grew up to look like. If it wasn't for Orochimaru betraying Danzo last minute, and instead of disposing of the survivor of the battle like how Danzo had ordered him to do, this situation would have been solved without running any risk of Kabuto growing up potentially as a threat to the Leaf or the shinobi world. Yes, don't get me wrong, it's tragic, depressing, and devastating, but that is the cost of peace and the greater good. To put the blame on Danzo for causing a world threat is disingenuous though. His plan was to eliminate both of them, causing no further issues. He is not responsible and should not be held accountable for Orochimaru betraying him and not exterminating Kabuto. The next relevant point brought up against him is when Danzo purposely didn't help or let Root help defend the Leaf from the Pain invasion. How fortuitous that this chaos has allowed us to escape Tsunade's vigilance. It seems the Akatsuki have their uses. The era of Lady Tsunade shall come to an end. We stay burrowed underground until things quiet down above. This is yet another case of Danzo working for what he believes to be the greater good, for Tsunade to be out of office and him to take her place as Hokage. He knew the more damage caused to the village, the worse it will look for Tsunade because of her being the current Hokage and the one who's supposed to protect the village. So he purposely contributed to more damage being dealt to the village by not helping defend Konoha. Many people also look to this situation and accuse Danzo of being power hungry and only wanting to be Hokage for himself. But to make that assessment, you have to purposely ignore how the man has lived his entire life. Everything Danzo does is for others and what he believes benefits the most amount of people, working underground in the shadows like a true shinobi, not letting his emotions impact any of his decision making. A figure like Danzo is a requirement in preserving peace and maintaining a safe village. However, even though I do believe his motives are the furthest thing from self-serving, I do believe this decision of his to be his biggest fault and risk throughout his life. Danzo was willing to sacrifice the lives of hundreds or even thousands just for the sake of only obtaining the Hokage position. For example, losing valuable shinobi like Kakashi would be a devastating blow to the Leaf. Would his decision making and changes towards the village, once Hokage, really be able to make up for a loss this monumental for the village? And even people in his organization rose this concern to him in the moment. Should we not provide support? For if Konoha and its citizens were to be eradicated, there would be no point in your ascension, which he replies saying, the princess is now Hokage. With Katsuyu's jutsu, it will not be a wholesale slaughter, even though there will be casualties, but those are necessary sacrifices for me to become Hokage. But even with Tsunade watching over the village, as I already stated, Kakashi and plenty of other important and valuable shinobi couldn't be protected and ended up dying. And if it wasn't for Naruto and the last minute change of heart Nagato had to revive all of those who passed away during the invasion, this would be a colossal blow to the Leaf, just for the sake of Danzo becoming Hokage. Also, Danzo's plan was to not even inform Naruto about the invasion and attempted to prevent him coming back by murdering the messenger frog who was supposed to relay the message to him. This was because he was aware the Akatsuki was after Naruto for the Nine Tails, and his goal was to prevent that from happening, which is an understandable reason, but the worst one when you weigh the two choices and potential outcomes of both. Either allow the entire Leaf to get flattened along with the majority of citizens residing in it, or allow Naruto to show up and fight and run the risk of losing and being captured by the Akatsuki. But even though I disagree with his decision making here, it's not like this was irrational and made no sense. It followed sound logic and is worthy of the argument that Naruto being in the hands of the Akatsuki could potentially cause more damage to the world as a whole. But regardless, the point is that this still is in character for what I've established about Danzo already, with his motives being for the greater good. In the aftermath of the Pain invasion, Danzo was elected as Hokage for a very short period of time, but nonetheless, he was Hokage. But his term would be cut short while attending the 5 Kage Summit and the events that transpired directly after. While in the meeting with the 5 Kage of the shinobi world, Danzo is dead set on one main goal he wants to attain from this conversation: to unite the 5 nations, coming together as one army and make it top priority to take down the Akatsuki. However, his means in trying to obtain this goal is by manipulating the mediator, Mifune, via the eye he stole from Shisui, and controlled him into agreeing with him, making him state that Danzo should be deemed the leader of the union the 5 nations are creating. Let me say this from my standpoint as the leader of this neutral state. The Akatsuki leader definitely has his finger on the pulse of time. He bided his time and waited for the various nations to stabilize, yet still distrust each other to expand his power. At this rate, he may even target the land of iron. However, we can turn this misfortune into a blessing. It's a rare thing for all 5 shadows to convene in one place. So until the Akatsuki can be disposed of, why not form the world's first united shinobi army of the 5 great hidden villages? Where he further goes on, then stating Danzo is the most fit to be the leader. A standardized chain of command would also be ideal. Further chaos must be avoided. The only remaining Jinchuriki is that of Konoha's Nine Tails, and I feel that how he is guided will be the key. So why not allow the Hokage to lead the allied shinobi army? Which obviously caused conflict to arise among the Kage, but Ao, who is one of the Mizukage's guards, noticed something off and decided to activate his Byakugan to see if anything suspicious was going on. What the? How could this be? The chakra color of Danzo's right shoulder and right arm, in addition to the right eye. There's no mistake. It's Shisui Uchiha's. Where then he speaks up and informs the other Kage, as well as Mifune, of the situation, causing Danzo to then lose all potential trust he could have gained amongst his peers. Even after this comes out, however, he isn't ashamed or remorseful in the slightest, as he says this when asked why he had done this. Lord Hokage, ninjutsu is prohibited in this room. You have lost trust. A shame, since I may have still chosen you without you resorting to such tactics. But may have is not good enough. I shall do whatever it takes to protect the shinobi world. Our world must unite. Just as the first Hokage Hashirama once brought together his clan and created Konoha, now we must merge all the villages and create one shinobi world. This shall never be accomplished through discussions and negotiation. Taking the time to do it morally and ethically will result in no change, and the Akatsuki will eventually destroy the shinobi world. By utilizing Shisui's eye, Danzo is infringing on the rights and freedom of others, but he's weighing the both evils in this situation and decided that the peace, safety, and freedom of the citizens in the villages is more important than one isolated incident where he has to manipulate one person for the greater good. Even if you do disagree with his methods, it is an undisputed fact that he has a history and reputation for being a key factor in preserving peace, successfully obtaining the betterment for all with his actions. Following right after this incident, Danzo's last moments are upon him, where as he is attempting to flee from the 5 Kage summit, he encounters Sasuke Uchiha, who had come with the sole purpose to murder him. Once Sasuke knew the truth about Itachi and how Danzo was the one who had given the order, this battle was inevitable and just a matter of time until it would happen. With Sasuke having vengeance consuming his mind in one corner, and Danzo, who has had the death of Sasuke on his agenda ever since the night of the massacre on the other side, both seeking the same goal to bring great change to Konoha. However, the future the two had planned for the village involved the extermination of the opposing side. There was no reality where simply talking this out would suffice, only a battle to the death. In his last moments, Danzo, unlike how he reacted years ago as a shinobi, was able to put his life on the line for the sake of the leaf and doing the most he could to maintain tranquility. Even throughout the fight, we see him bring up the same sentiments he mentioned years ago and continue to live by. Self-sacrifice. That is the meaning of shinobi. Never to see the light of day. Distinguished servants of shadow. That is the true figure of shinobi since ancient times. And not just Itachi, but many shinobi have died. This world cannot function just on ideals and pleasantries. It is thanks to them that peace has been maintained. Many people also bring up the fact that he took Karin hostage in a last-ditch effort to preserve his life. But this is just yet another example of him serving the greater good of the people. As I've already established, yes, his methods are cruel and often emotionless, but that kind of leader is required to maintain peace. Danzo doesn't shy away and let his pride or feelings get in the way of his decision-making, which, when in a position of power, those traits are needed. We saw what happened when Hiruzen took his passive approach as Hokage. I have a whole video going in depth on the disastrous choices he made when in office because of his unwillingness to make tough decisions when it mattered. But Danzo knows that his life is more valuable than Karin's, which, as I've already shown, is not a selfish or egotistical way of thinking. It is in fact selfless because he only values his life more because he knows he will save more people and work more towards peace than Karin ever could. Danzo has lived his entire life for the sake of serving others. You, who extolled self-sacrifice, would take a hostage? It's not that I consider my life too precious. For Konoha's sake and for the sake of the shinobi world, I cannot afford to die here. No matter what the means, I must survive. For I am the one, the reformer, who shall change the shinobi world. This woman is simply a sacrifice to that cause. Danzo died as a true shinobi, alone, in the shadows, not in any glorious or overblown fashion, left to dissolve into the soil without a sound. I believe the greatest and most telling part that speaks to Masashi Kishimoto's genius is the response from the court of public opinion, who despises and holds so much hatred towards Danzo. I would like to think he predicted this response that the masses would have to truly expose the faults in the human condition, where many people who have disdain for Danzo simply do not realize what cruel actions are required to preserve peace. Danzo was a net positive to the shinobi world, who saved thousands of lives in the process, and whether or not you agree with his methods, it is a fact he obtained results, and even if he has made 1 or 2 risky decisions in the process, his motives cannot be called into question. They were only pure. He lived and died a true loyal shinobi to his hometown. And now I hope all of you came away from this video having a better understanding of his character, and that this is the dark, depressing reality of the shinobi world. And the things that Danzo did is sadly all just the price of peace. So think twice each day as you go about your life enjoying your freedom, because there are people out there in the real world right now, exactly like Danzo, who are the reason why you can enjoy the life that you know and love. There's always a price for everything in life, whether you notice it or not. Thank you all for watching.
My favorite ending in Clara Schumann's romance.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Anik, I'm a classical pianist, and I feel like I wanted to do another 1 minute, 10 minutes, 1 hour challenge today because I need to get rid of some aggression. I wanted to play Rachmaninoff Prelude in... which one is this? Opus 23, number 5 in G minor, as far as I know, right? Yes? Yes. Like always, let's repeat the rules of the challenge. You have 1 minute, 10 minutes, and 1 hour to practice a piece that you've never played before. And after every practicing session, you have to try to perform the piece just the way it is in that moment. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to support me and this channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon or consider get some merch. You'll find the links in the description box.